Let's bring in retired four-star General Jack Keane, our Fox News senior strategic analyst. Let me just turn it over to you, sir. How do you see things this morning?
Well, first of all, in reference to the speech, I did think the president's speech was relatively strong on Russia. His tone and content were good as a sense of conviction. I do believe there are three things that were lost opportunities. One is I'm absolutely convinced that we should be identifying publicly what President Zelensky's objective, which is to drive the Russians off of Ukraine territory. And I believe that the president should unequivocally make a statement to that effect. We know that some Western European countries, the exception being Great Britain, would really take a peace accord at the expense of Ukraine right now. And we should put publicly, not challenge them directly, but commit to Zelensky's objective. The second thing is, I believe we deserved a more direct response on what Putin is doing in terms of nuclear weapons. I think it's still remote and low in terms of the possibility of that. And the reason I come to that conclusion is because Putin still remains a rational actor, even though he's made some strategic mistakes. And the fact is that he knows full well if he uses a tactical nuclear weapon, that by definition will expand the war. The consequences would be quite significant on him in terms of what we would do as a result of something like that, the United States and NATO. I don't think we have to get into the specifics of it, but I think more directly to deal with it. And then the third thing is, listen, he's before the United Nations. And yes, Russia deserves attention at it. But we got three other aggressive nations whose malign and aggressive behavior in the last year has ramped up significantly. China, and there was no real discussion of the military intimidation that's going on with Taiwan or the economic warfare that China is developing. No real discussion of what Iran is doing and how they've upped their games in terms of missiles that they provided to their proxies and how those missiles have rained down on Israel and the mischief they're causing in the Middle East and developing and creeping closer to a nuclear weapon. And now they're killing their own people in the streets once again as a result of a protest movement. And North Korea increasing their arsenal and the belligerent nation they are. Not to have addressed that with that whole body, I think was a strategic mistake in terms of some specifics. And here we have the president of Iran following our president much later, and certainly we should have given him something to think about.
Agree on all. Interesting to get your perspective. I did have one last quick question, which is Putin's mobilization of men to come and fight. Would he even be able to train and support them and get them into the fight? Won't that take months?
Yeah, that's a great question. Listen, the far right is pushing him for greater action. They want full mobilization. He knows that would be a catastrophe. He can't get there politically because of the opposition. You can see there's opposition in the streets just by calling up 300,000 reservists right now. We wouldn't even see them on the battlefield for 3 or 4 months. And then when they do join the battlefield, some of them are medically unfit, some of them are physically unfit, a lot of them are mentally unfit in the sense that they really don't want to be there. And then they're going to join a military force that's already displayed a significant amount of incompetence. I don't believe they're going to be decisive.
General Jack Keane, thank you. Let's stay in touch as this rolls along. Appreciate it.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.